So, about religion itself, or about the existence of God or of a creator or something like that?
So your belief about, say, your position of agnosticism, if you define what it is and whether you think it's the right position.
Right, agnosticism. Agnosticism, for me at least, is to realize that there's a possibility of the existence of God, because it's not something that can be disproven, but that it also can't be proven.
Right.
And the main reason for that is that humans are not God. I don't believe that humans are God. I don't think so, you know? So, a finite human being, even if God exists, even if an absolute being like God exists, he cannot assert the existence of God, no matter how much he tries, no matter which ways, which proof is brought to him, you know? At least that's in my opinion. There's other arguments, but that's one of the main ones.
So you would say your position is a type of weak agnosticism, right? So
Why weak?
From the perspective that strong agnostics would be like, we are like 99% sure there's no God, right? And it's extremely unlikely. So like Richard Dawkins would be a type of strong agnostic. You seem like a weaker agnostic. Would that be correct?
I disagree, but I'll agree on something with you. In the way that the existence of God, saying that God exists, I can't say what's the percentage of possibility. I don't think anybody can, really. But I can say that there's a higher possibility that your
There's
God...
a possibility there's a fight going on
There
right
is
now.
a fight over there, yeah. We're getting the crowd stolen.
Yeah,
But-
we are getting the crowd stolen. But anyway, look, when it comes to atheism, and I want to have obviously a few discussions with you because you come to the park quite often, what I want to speak about is the implications of atheism and the implications of agnosticism. Now, one of the things which I speak about, and I spoke about yesterday, so it's fresh at the top of my head, is that if you believe in a worldview in which God is not a reality, then everything ultimately has no meaning, value, purpose, and there's no certainty in it. So life is meaningless, right? What would you say to that? Because I believe this is a strong argument against weak and strong agnosticism and atheism.
Right.
Another mic.
Another fight broke up. This one is closer. Maybe you guys should do this first, so we can do this. No, she's leaving. Okay, never mind. So you were saying that. What was the question?
Okay.
I got this.
So yesterday I was giving a talk about atheism, agnosticism, and the implications of it. So before we speak about whether atheism or theism is true, or agnosticism in your case, weak agnosticism or strong agnosticism.
Yeah, remember, you're saying that life has no purpose if you follow that kind of ideal. Is that
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah, right, life has no purpose.
Nihilism, basically.
Nihilism. Not exactly, but it's going to that direction, more or less. I believe in probability. The things that we can assert with the senses that we have. I don't believe our senses are perfect, but with our senses we can assert somewhat the probability of the world that is around. Of course, we can still be mistaken in it, but we can achieve certainty, even if it's limited to us as finite beings, you know? So I think we can achieve certain truths, even though we might still be wrong, but we basically choose what we decide to follow. For example, you chose to be a Muslim. As Christians chose to be Christians, as I choose to be an agnostic.
Yeah, I get that, but my question is slightly different. My question is, what do you think about the purpose of life, or life being meaningless, under your perspective, under your worldview? Do you believe there's any objective purpose to why we exist?
They can be, but I don't think people can assert that with certainty, because again, they're fine.
Okay, so what would you say is the purpose of your life?
Of my life, very good question. So, purpose of my life, I chose many different objectives in my life to be my purpose. You know, let's say one of them is to have children, one of them is to keep living.
So it's like a Darwinian purpose.
More or less. I mean, look, humans are also animals, except that humans are much more developed animals. The basic animal needs is actually something that religion helps a lot with, because religion gives organization in a society, gives purpose to people who find themselves as purposeless. You know, I see lots of youths these days saying, "Oh, you know, I never want to have kids, I never want to marry, I never want to have any of that because it's bullshit. I just want to keep living the life as it is." I don't agree with that.
So you're kind of saying religion, and this goes into my favorite area. Yeah. Religion promotes, in a way, reproduction and survival
Yeah,
and these types of things. Okay.
It's
So,
useful, yeah.
would you say for you, religion is an evolved adaptation for us to survive?
That's a good question. Yes and no. So religion,
That's the best answer.
yeah, because in a way,
Safest.
yeah, no, but look, I'll explain why. Sure. In a way, it is, but in a way, it isn't. Religion is very good for. Okay, look, this is going to be very controversial. I know I'll get lots of people angry because of this, but I don't see I don't see the world the same way that religious people do. I see the world as two ideologies, opposing ideologies. There's the ideology of the wolves, and there's the ideology of the sheep. And the religion is for the sheep. It's for the followers. The wolves are the ones who rule, are the rulers, are the kings, the generals, the emperors. They don't care about religion. They use religion to create purpose for the sheep, to fight for their ambitions.
So,
So it's useful to organize humanity.
Correct me if I'm wrong. So that idea of Marx, as in religion, is the opiate of the masses.
Yeah, I don't agree with it.
You don't agree with it?
No, I don't.
Okay, but you're saying religion is a way of just controlling people?
Yes.
Okay, but couldn't we say that about any organized human activity ultimately falls into the category of wolves and sheep?
Absolutely. Almost all of the different ideologies.
Including atheist movements.
Well, that depends. That depends. If atheism is based on debating against religion, then yeah, it can be used for power. If atheism is simply the act of not being religious and not even speaking about religion, then I don't see how that can be used to achieve power.
But the same thing applies to religion. So someone is religious, but they're not imposing on someone else. But like what you said about wolves and sheep is, let's apply this to secularism or liberalism, or even communist China, right? So you have these ideals that people believe in, and they impose these on society, and for them, they are the wolves and the people are the sheep. So your analogy would apply just as much to secular ideologies as much as it would apply to religious ideologies.
It does, but there's a small differentiation. I can give plenty of examples of countries that didn't have religion, but replaced it with something else, like the Soviet Union, perfect example. No religion, but they had the cult of personality.
No, but they did have a religion.
In the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
What was it?
Communism.
I wouldn't call it a religion.
Okay, let's go with the definition of religion. I'm going to give you a definition.
I guess if you want to go with semantics, you could compare it to religion.
I would say it's a full blown out religion in the same way Darwinism is a religion. Because religion ultimately is a term which you can apply to a worldview which subscribes to something supernatural or does not subscribe to something supernatural. It could even refer to beliefs and values which are unjustified, which people hold on to. So for example, when we look at liberalism is also a religion because it's based upon the assumption, the Hobbesian assumption of human nature, which is unprovable. And when it comes to Darwinism, this is even which academics have recognized that it's actually a religion. Apart from being a scientific theory, it's also a religion. Likewise, scientism, communism, all of these ideologies, ultimately, they have ideals which are untouchable, and those untouchable ideals means that these worldviews are in fact religions.
I would say, if you compare liberalism to communism to a religion, for example, like Christianity or Islam, liberalism stands a bit to the side because liberalism is more about the discussion of the different ideas. Of course, there's some ideas that are considered absolute. For example, the idea of free speech. We need to have free speech.
Also, but look, you're talking about, firstly, liberalism doesn't allow absolute free speech. That's true, okay?
Depends on the liberalism.
Okay, give me one liberal state in the world which allows absolute free speech. There isn't, okay? And nor has there ever been historically.
There isn't, at least not in practice.
Okay,
in theory, they might be, but in practice, the
but
people
what
in
matters,
power will always try to,
cut
down the ones who oppose.
The second thing is the Hobbesian worldview, that it's man's life was short, brutish, and difficult, right? It's what every human for himself, ultimately, right? So that the state of nature, which is ultimately what they derive liberal values from, and that's the presupposition. That's the presupposition that they actually use. Those are unprovable, right? So it is in fact a religion.
They are not provable in the way that, for example, a chemical reaction is. It's not as clear as that. But
Yeah, because we're speaking about values here. Values you can never prove in the same way.
yes, you can't prove values as an absolute, but you can prove values as a function, and that is what I strive for. It's functionality in a society.
Okay, so I don't agree with that. Let's think about this. So give me an example of values which are provable through function.
Bravery,
Bravery.
yes.
Okay.
Loyalty,
Okay. Would you say loyalty and bravery is good?
yes.
Okay. Let's add something to it. Would you believe? Would you say
I
that?
know where you're going.
Yeah, we're headed in that direction.
Go on.
Yeah. So would you say truth is also something good?
Yes, it's good.
Okay. Now all of these value claims are something which you have to presuppose, but not something you can prove.
Yes. They don't have an absolute justification, but I would say that they're good because they're functional. Because through history, they have been proven to work. You know, in a society,
What do you mean by work?
to work to get humans into a cohesive society.
Right. That means maximizing pleasure, basically. Maximizing productivity, maximizing happiness, whatever you want to call it.
For me, it's more about the continuation of mankind, of mankind's existence,
But no, but
or the supremacy of mankind. in a way.
Pavlov, the problem with that is that's too general, and you can have a very brutal society which allows the continuation of human beings, like
Yes.
eugenic type models,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Where they kill off the weaks, they kill off the colored people, and they just keep the strong white men.
Could. Why white?
I said eugenics.
Oh, eugenics doesn't necessarily need to be about whites. But yeah, look,
No,
I would say.
but the people behind the eugenics movement, the social Darwinists, they believe the whites to be the most superior. That's why I said it.
Sure. But look, I would argue that that is not beneficial overall for humanity because there's plenty of people that don't fall under the, for example, perfect body shape, blah, 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 condition that they want, and that can be very useful for humanity. Stephen Hawking is the best example. He's a cripple. He can't
No,
move, he
but
can't do
okay,
anything,
but
but he's a genius.
okay. So from your perspective of agnosticism, why is the life of Stephen Hawking more important than the life of, say, that Christian preacher over there?
Than the Christian preacher. Well, if you, in which way, in which situation are you located?
Under your agnostic worldview, why would Stephen Hawking be more important than that preacher,
Than the preacher.
or anybody, or even
Than
this,
him,
even
or
that
you,
tree,
or me, or anyone
or
here,
even
really.
that fly that was flying around us?
Well, he's definitely more important than the fly, but that's another
No,
discussion.
no, actually, why is
Why?
he more important than the fly?
Why is he more important than the fly? For me, and for us, and for humans,
For,
he is.
under your worldview of agnosticism.
Yes, for me, for humans, for us overall, he's more important. Because if, let's say, you die, I mean, some things will change, of course. The people who you are friends with, your family, blah, 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 everybody will mourn probably. Some things will be lost, but it won't be the same loss as if Stephen Hawking died. I mean, he did die already, I know that he died. But if he died
But
before,
that's purely
he invented
subjective.
the things that he
I mean,
found.
I can imagine a lot of
It is,
Christians
more or less.
looking at him dying and saying, "Well, good riddance." And
They
I
could,
can,
yeah, they
and some people, he could technically be a cult leader, right? And his followers would be like, "This is great. We value him more." So what I'm trying to get at is that under your worldview, there is no difference between, say, a fly and Stephen Hawking's.
Yes, there is.
How?
Because for me, he's better. And for humans, I would argue... I would give
Better,
my
better
arguments that he's
objectively.
Better as objectively as I can get.
Okay.
It's objective for me, but my objectivity isn't an absolute for everybody, unless I can prove it to the others.
So give me evidence that under agnosticism,
Evidence, exactly.
yeah, give me evidence under agnosticism, Stephen Hawking's is worth more than a flea or fly.
Than a flea or a fly or whatever. Because of his scientific theories, because of the advancements he made humanity go forward and understand better the world in which they are. And humans, they succeeded against other animals, not because they're stronger or faster or whatever. It's because of their understanding, their adaptation to the world. So to understand the world means to dominate the world. And humans need that understanding to be dominant in this world.
It's actually the other way around. If you look at it sociologically, the more intelligent people are, the less children they have. The more people are involved in studying nature, the less children they have.
Yes.
Isaac Newton died childless, right? And in fact, a religion or even a fly, they're more likely to reproduce than people who are spending a lot of time in things which we would consider to be intelligent.
You're completely right. But in this case, Stephen Hawking is not necessarily good for his own children, for his own continuation of his being, to have children, but for overall humanity.
No,
for
he's-
the other humans is better than
No,
a random.
but according to your criteria, Pavlov, it's not, because the more human beings start to understand the world, get into philosophy, get into science, get into these things, the less likely they are to actually have more children.
That's
And in
true.
fact, the less they understand the world, the more children they're going to have.
True, but that could be changed. That's a flaw that could be mitigated, that could be reduced.
What I'm trying to show is, at the moment, your worldview is not coherent. Because you're saying the objective is the continuation of humanity.
Yes.
And I'm trying to show you, if you believe that to be the case, forget scientific advancement. It's just about having lots of things to eat and having lots of sex.
No, it's not, because this planet has a time limit.
Has it?
Has a time limit.
Right.
This planet is not eternal. Eventually, in I don't know how many years, how many centuries or whatever, this planet will disappear. And if we stay here forever, we will disappear. And thus, people like Stephen Hawking are very important for humanity to have, to advance and to spread to other places.
But couldn't we argue, additionally, that it's the very advancement of humanity, it's the very progress of humanity, the industrialization and the scientific revolution, which is leading to the climate change, which is leading to all the problems in the planet actually possibly dying a heat death? Because if we were simply hunter-gatherers and we didn't understand nature, and we would have a much lower human population, and we wouldn't have destroyed the planet.
No, I disagree. Because if we did that, then even though we might live longer, we might exist longer, we are certain to die on this planet. There's no chance we'll go somewhere else if
Right.
we don't advance. Now,
So-
if we do advance, there's a possibility we might survive.
Sure. Now, under your worldview, would you say the most important thing is the survival of the species?
Yes.
Okay. You do realize that contradicts Darwinism.
In which way?
Darwinism, it works by natural selection, working at the gene level, and the most important thing is the preservation of our genes. Not even preservation of organisms, let alone species.
Yeah, but my genes are part of the human species. If I preserve my genes, I preserve the human species. And more than that, if
That's not necessarily true.
with humans it is.
About homosexuality,
Huh?
do you agree with it?
What?
Homosexuality.
What does it have
No,
to
no,
do with
that's not- that's
conversation?
not-
That goes against the worldview, don't it?
No, that's not related to the discussion.
Anyway, look,
Do you understand the problem I raised?
I understand the problem you're raising, but I would say that humans are not, for example, you know, bed bugs, for example, disgusting creatures. Bed bugs,
Right, yeah.
disgusting creatures. But the son of a bed bug female can have children with the mother, and there's not going to be inbreeding. With humans, there is going to be inbreeding. It's a taboo, and it's a taboo for a reason. It cannot be done. Simply no. Inbreeding is a complete taboo mainly because humans will have children with mental problems. They will have like children who have arms growing out of the chest. That's an
No,
exaggeration.
I get that, but
You get what I mean,
yeah,
right?
Pavlov,
So the benefit of humanity is the best thing for each individual human, I would argue.
but look, the way we evolved, according to a Darwinian story, is man against man, woman against woman, child against child, pure survival of the fittest. And it's not about selection of the organism, selection of the species or selection of the organism. It's about selection of the genes, and it's a fight for survival.
Yeah.
So it's not the case that we all, from a Darwinian perspective, you all need to cooperate and then we'll all get along. Ultimately, all of this veneer of civilization, ethics, morals, it all breaks down to man against man. In fact, look, the way I like to think about it is the film The Joker, right?
The new one?
The new one, yeah. I watched it twice, I really liked it, right? So the guy, he believes he's just ahead of the curve, right? He thinks this veneer of society in which everyone's pretending to be nice to each other, underneath it there's a veneer, underneath the veneer is pure brutish and savage behavior, right? Now that selfish type behavior, that is what Hobbes spoke about, that's what Darwin spoke about, that's what the selfish gene idea is about. So your perspective, before we get into whether it's right or wrong, I just want to show it doesn't correlate with the Darwinian picture.
Well, I never said I correlate on every single little thing that Darwin says. But I would say that what you're saying is a possible interpretation of Darwinism. But
Well,
it's
that's
not
the current
necessarily.
interpretation.
Sure, you could say that, but I wouldn't even agree completely that it's the current interpretation, because even though Darwin argues for survival of the fittest, each one for himself, basically, with humans it's a bit more complex, because humans are not like tigers, for example. Tigers are solitary beings. Humans are when humans are beings that survive in a society. Humans can't coexist well, can't survive if they don't work in a group. So
Yeah.
there need to be compromises.
Yeah, but you see, I don't disagree with that. But what the Darwinian picture tells us is those compromises, however they are layered, however they're explained, underneath them there's pure selfishness. So for example, there's two ways they mainly try and explain the way we cooperate. Kin selection and reciprocal altruism. So you, Pavlov, I'm going to be nice to you. I'm going to